Hello and welcome to Upgrade Your UAS Response Operations with GIS. We're thankful today to be joined by personnel from DroneResponders to describe the partnership between DroneResponders and Esri moving forward. And we'll also discuss solutions and support for the public safety UAS industry. Today we'll cover how to access capabilities for training, policy development, and technology. These capabilities include fleet management, flight planning, data collection, and imagery processing for public safety UAS teams. Proud to be joined today by Chief Charles Warner from DroneResponders. Charles, you want to say hi?
Hey, everybody. I'm Charles Warner, the retired fire chief from Charlottesville, Virginia, and I'm now the director and founder of DroneResponders, and really great to be here with Mike Cox and Esri.
Thanks, Chief. And I am Mike Cox. I'm your Director of Fire and Rescue Solutions for Esri. Essentially, I'm your fire liaison officer, so please reach out 24/7 with any needs you might have for a significant event or response. I come to you after 27 years with a county fire department, metro-sized department in Central Virginia, where I retired as deputy chief. So as exciting as it is to have Chief Warner with us, it's also incredibly exciting to announce our partnership with DroneResponders. We've entered into a formal agreement to provide content, applications, and training support for UAS teams internationally through DroneResponders and AIRT. So they will have access to things like our site scan software, which we'll talk about momentarily, that can provide training and support to your UAS team. So please reach out with any questions or if there's an opportunity for us to support your operations. I want to talk briefly about GIS and how it can support your operations and really enrich the products and outputs of your UAS teams and UAS operations. GIS is often referred to as the map, but it's so much more than just a map. The ability to enrich these layers with data that helps support decision-making, data-driven decision-making, is incredible. It allows us to collect data in the field, whether that's through UAS, mobile applications, our human sensors, or Internet of Things, IoT connectivity, and be able to visualize that data in an appropriate manner that helps people make decisions, and just as importantly, to be able to share that data to our stakeholders, partner agencies, the public, or elected officials. The ability to bring in all types of data into these visual products is powerful. So you can see imagery data being integrated into these mapping products. You can see things like LiDAR, 3D modeling, building information, BIM data, and just simple tabular data maybe out of a CAD system or an RMS that can help you, again, put these visual products together to help you make decisions. An excellent example of that is CAL FIRE and CAL OES and their ability to share information throughout an incident and covering multiple incidents statewide. And they do that through the use of GIS as the primary platform for sharing this kind of data. And you can see there, that's Cal OES's Emergency Operations Center and fire season from a couple of years ago. And it's difficult to see in this representation, but they've got, over 200,000 acres on fire on this given day, almost 1,000 engine companies deployed and 12,000 personnel on the ground. But with these kind of visual products, you can start to self-brief as soon as you walk in that room. Or you can simply send a link to somebody in an email and they can see the same data or data that you've filtered depending on security requirements to, again, help them make decisions or at least understand what's going on or have insights into that incident. So a powerful way to do that. And if it comes down to, it doesn't matter, what agency they're with, what discipline, what radio system they're using, what kind of computer they're on or device. As long as you can send them a link, you can provide them this kind of response data. Sharing is seamless and easily performed because of the footprint of Esri. We're in 85% of state and local government domestically in the United States. All federal agencies are leveraging Esri GIS to complete their missions. And now UAS teams across the globe can access these kind of capabilities through DroneResponders and through Esri. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Charles so he can provide some more additional information on DroneResponders and their incredible programs they have ongoing. Charles?
So it's really exciting to be here with Mike. One, we're good friends from a long time back, which has a lot to say about our experiences together and learning and understanding these different aspects. But we've seen that drones now are taking a huge, they're becoming a huge decision-making part of our processes in public safety. And as you can see by this illustration, there are so many different ways that drones are capturing imagery, but there's a next step to that. And that's what we're talking about now, is not only looking at the imagery that we're seeing momentarily or immediately, but also the ability to capture the information, to analyze the information, to store the information and make it available. So with all these different aspects, we're going to go to the next level now and be able to take this imagery and this data and make it even more important for decision making and or for assessments after an incident. What we know is that public safety and law enforcement, fire rescue, emergency management, EMS, and search and rescue and other areas are starting to use drones much more than they ever have in the past. And it's because we're learning about the different applications and the value that it can bring. The breakdown that we see is that law enforcement is about 42% and in the lead. Fire rescue is about 38%. Emergency management is about 12%. And other categories are about 7%, which is search and rescue in some other areas. When we started looking through our spring 2020 research with air drone responders, we learned that there were more than 17 use cases. And what you see here is the top categories that were selected or chosen by those people saying these are the things that we do. What we also realized from this is that each one of these categories can be subdivided into 2, 3, even 4 different areas of how they can make a difference as far as the utilization of drones. So what's the problem? There is no database of all these public safety UAS programs in the United States, in the world, anywhere. And in the United States alone, there's an estimated 4,000 public safety UAS programs, and there's no way to communicate with these UAS programs. If we had this network in place, this database, a map, and the way to get the information, we could share best practices, lessons learned, safety information on aircraft. We could facilitate training opportunities. We can partner with neighboring UAS programs to share resources. We can deploy for disasters or significant incidents, which currently we don't have. There's no way for us to reach out or even know which programs exist in the areas where a disaster may have occurred. And then last is to coordinate and prevent duplicative imagery. The answer is a global public safety UAS program database and map. And this is a partnership initiative between DroneResponders, the NASA Ames Research Institute, and Esri. We're combining the collective effort of these 3 organizations to bring forward this global program database of drones and a web map for people to see it. So we will be using the Survey 123 tool, and the URL and barcode are shown below. As you can see here, we've made it easy for the survey link. It's teams.droneresponders.org, and the barcode is here if you want to use that as well. To the right, what you can see is the introduction once you open the survey tool that will tell you what we're doing. And it basically says DroneResponders has partnered with Esri and NASA Aeronautics Research Institute to develop this world's first comprehensive geo-reference directory of public safety and emergency services drone programs. The purpose of this project is to coordinate program development, training, and mutual assistance between jurisdictions. To list your public safety unmanned aircraft system or drone program in this directory, please complete the survey below. This survey basically only takes about 5 minutes to complete. If you have any questions, you can also direct those questions to Brandon Carr, who happens to be a police officer with the Pearland, Texas Police Department, who's the project manager for DroneResponders in this area, and his email is listed below. This data, once it's entered, as you do this individually, it will automatically populate ArcGIS and onto the web map, which will also be available. Here's an example of what the web map might look like. It'll have dots on the map, but you can hover over or click on them to get additional information. The survey does allow, if you want to put your contact information out there or not, so you can make it public or not, and you can see what information is available that has been allowed by the people making their entries. The global database and map will, first of all, create that database of public safety UAS drone programs from around the world. And it will create an automatic web map to show us where we all are located. The next thing that we'll be doing is building a dashboard for different views. And hopefully this will lead to us establishing an information sharing network, ways that we can share all those things that we talked about earlier. And last but not least, in the United States, this data will be imported into FEMA's Incident Resource Inventory System, or IRIS, database to allow FEMA to identify those resources that can be deployable assets. This is an exciting opportunity for us. And again, it's through the power of the NASA Ames Research Institute and Esri that we're bringing all this information to our drone responder community. So what's the other problem? There's no standardized approach to imagery, collection, storage, and access. We're all kind of doing our own thing, which means that some of us may be doing the same thing at a different time, and we just don't know what's been taking place. And as I mentioned before, all these things are in here as to what we can do with this. But the answer is a nationwide public safety drone imagery project. It's, again, a partnership initiative, but this time it's DroneResponders and Esri using SiteScan and combining that with ArcGIS online. So we're going to take this solution, put it into the cloud. We're going to be able to capture the information and show what's there. So what does it mean? A nationwide public safety UAS imagery project. It means in the United States, we'll have a standardized application that we're going to use or reference as Esri SiteScan. This is a foundation for us to create a nationwide network of people all understanding the same workflows, putting the information in a place that can be accessible to see what's already been done and add to that categorized collection. Standardized collection and storage process. So again, we're not doing 15, 20 different things. We're doing the same thing. And then from that, we're able to create and share a standardized workflow and train all of our departments the same. So as you move from one place to another, you're able to see that it works exactly the same. Imagery accessible to authorized personnel. So you can identify who can see the information that's needed. And really what's nice, this mirrors the Civil Air Patrol program where the imagery can immediately be available to FEMA. So if you have this information, it'll be categorized. They can go in and look by the date, the time, the location, see what imagery is in place and make use of it, which means we are taking some steps out of the process of making sure, especially if you're having a presidential disaster declaration and you want that information going to FEMA straight away, it's there and it's done. And it prevents the duplication of drone imagery through coordinated methodology. We can see who has collected what imagery at what locations and when. A nationwide public safety U.S. imagery project does not require you to use Esri SiteScan. You can use other imagery. This is just one of the solutions that we're using as a means of creating a foundation. And as Mike mentioned, 85% of state and local governments are using Esri. So this is something that immediately can be folded right into the GIS operations in any city, state, town, tribal organization, whatever it might be. And once we do that, again, the imagery will come up and show us where the imagery is around the world and be able to determine how to take advantage of that. So let me tell you a little bit about DroneResponders. We now have over 4,000 members with participation from 48 countries. We have numerous working groups that we're included in this. But one of the things we like to boast about is our resource center, which has the largest online collection of public safety UAS drone documents, SOPs, best practices, lessons learned, training info, and more. And you can get access to that at DroneResponders.org. And membership is free. So join today. Mike, back to you.
Thanks, Charles. And I will say that my relationship with drone responders has been incredibly valuable. The exposure I've had to FAA personnel and the stakeholders you bring together for your training programs or webinar are incredibly effective and impactful. So we certainly appreciate the efforts, and we're proud to participate with you in supporting UAS teams. And I did want to cover a few of the ways we support UAS teams and public safety in general, particularly when dealing with a significant event like that presidentially declared disaster that the chief just mentioned. One of which is our disaster response program. This is a 24/7 support program that is at no additional cost to you, available to any of our customers, that will provide what software, technical support, or even boots on the ground, depending on the event. As an example, we've responded to over 5,000 requests just related to COVID in the last 14 months or so, as you can imagine. But the ability to, make a phone call and get that support immediately is pretty powerful. And then to be able to get support directly related to a specific incident really assists UAS teams or public safety agencies as a whole. In addition to that, we provide software and applications that can address risk assessments, hazard identification, the ability to understand what community you're operating in if you've been deployed outside of your region, demographic data that's incredibly deep, that you understand who you're serving. What is the makeup of the community I'm going into to support my UAS deployments? And we also support public safety agencies through our solutions. These are prepackaged solutions you can download today and start using, no additional costs, and they're aimed at specific disciplines. So we have a solutions page for law enforcement, a solutions page for fire and EMS, and a solutions page for emergency management, along with many others, including general industries. But please take a moment and look at that. It's solutions.arcgis.com. And it allows you, again, to immediately start using these apps with minor configuration specific to your agency, and you can run with them and start doing some amazing things, including, field data collection through a UAS in addition. But certainly, those risk assessments, demographics, those kind of activities and capabilities are available on that solutions page. And you can combine your UAS data, those outputs, with thousands and thousands of data sets that are available in our Living Atlas. And that can be anything from live data from traffic and weather to demographics to risk assessments, a deep amount of data related to wildland response, hurricanes, significant weather events such as tornadoes, earthquakes, and just about any kind of disaster or significant incident you can think of. You can find ready to use content that can impact that in our Living Atlas. And we see more and more the application of artificial intelligence and machine learning, particularly in the UAS world, when we're talking about doing damage assessments through imagery and not even having to put boots on the ground to be able to understand what damage has occurred. And that allows us in a quick manner to be able to deploy resources where they're most needed. So you're not just blindly deploying resources across an operational area. You know where the most damage is. You know where the most need for help is occurring, and you can focus those resources on the areas of most need. One example of that is the ability to use AI or machine learning to identify blocked routes for response. So imagine going into an area after a hurricane or tornado or something of the like, and not knowing what the road network is like. Imagery from a UAS can easily identify or quickly identify what routes are open, what routes aren't, and it doesn't take an analysis by a human. You can actually run that through the machine learning process and identify streets that are blocked and access areas that are off limits, and then develop routes that allow you to get to those areas of interest or areas of need based on the actual conditions on the ground from that imagery. And so when we talk about drone mapping, we're talking about two primary applications. One is drone to map and one is site scan. Drone to map is a desktop imagery 3D processing software that you could use in a remote location. So if you're in a disconnected environment and you need to process imagery quickly, drone to map might be that solution. And then, of course, site scan, which Chief Warner mentioned earlier, is going to be our primary route for imagery processing through our DroneResponders partnership. And again, it does mimic a lot of the federal agencies, as Charles mentioned. FEMA, Civil Air Patrol are using this workflow to process that imagery. And I'll make a note here that one of our most common requests through our disaster response program after a significant event is for imagery. As soon as you can get a blue sky and get some kind of aircraft up, and typically UAS are the first up, and to be able to get that imagery processed quickly in a format that's appropriate and then released through the FEMA agencies or through FEMA and other federal agencies to be used by other public safety agencies is huge. I mean, that's an incredible capability that we need to be able to coordinate a little bit better, that we need to be able to prevent duplication of effort, and we need to be able to put out consistent products for our decision makers to use to deploy resources to save lives and property. So again, SiteScan is a SaaS, it's a cloud-based solution. It has storage capabilities built into it for your imagery and UAS data. And the workflow, we understand the workflow that is repeatable and effective, right? So the capture of the data, the process, managed, and analyzation, and then of course disseminating that data or sharing that data is incredibly important. So the best way to look at the way we have our applications bundled is through our collections. So we have a drone mapping collection, mapping and analysis, online drone mapping collection, which is primarily that SiteScan, and then we have an enterprise deployed system that combines all of that, but in an enterprise environment. And it allows you to do these functions quickly and easily, and again, collaborate with those stakeholders to be able to share the imagery appropriately so we can use it for things like damage assessment, and that machine learning processes can be applied to it. So if you're interested in these kind of applications, certainly reach out to Charles and DroneResponders. You can scan the QR code there, just get a brief overview of what our ArcGIS drone collections contain and what their capabilities are. And please reach out to me or Charles whenever needed. Here's our contact information. And 24/7, please feel free if you have any questions, if you'd like a demonstration of some of these capabilities or understanding how DroneResponders and Esri is moving forward in support of UAS operations internationally. Again, reach out at any time. So thank you for your time today. We enjoyed spending a few minutes with you. Please be safe, and hopefully we'll talk soon.